Hello to all of you from around the world. I want to welcome you back to an edition of Soulivity Today, broadcasting live from our studio right here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and on KMET 1490 AM radio in Southern California. You know me, I'm Brian Westley Johnson, and we have a fantastic show coming up. I'm joined today by two of the best in the business. First, Soulivity senior contributor, Dr. Chanel DeGuzman. Hello to you, darling. And Soulivity editor at large, D'Angelo Thompson. Hello to you, D.
Good morning, Brian and Dr. Chanel. How are you guys?
Yes,
Oh, fantastic,
good to see you
fantastic.
and hear you, D'Angelo.
Yes.
Now, D'Angelo, you have a very special shout out that we want to begin our show today with. And what's that shout out you want to say?
To my niece, Haley Vaughn, my oldest niece. I want to call her Dr. Haley Vaughn because I'm trying to convince her to go to med school. Whatever. Haley Vaughn, happy birthday, sweetie.
Oh, happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday. You guys know there's a new happy birthday song now out.
Really?
Yeah.
Another one?
Yeah, people are rehearsing it already, and it's like kind of a big deal. And yeah, I have a whole year.
What?
So.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to sing it now. I'm just kidding.
No.
I'm just... What's been going on with you, Chanel? I mean, we haven't talked since last week. And so what's been happening?
Well, I had a friend graduate with her master's in organizational psychology. So I had a chance to kick up my heels on the dance floor at her graduation celebration. So that was fun.
Fantastic.
And then we're getting ready for Giovanni's homecoming this Saturday, which is another big deal. So it's hair, makeup, a very, I don't know if you all know about the dresses these days, but it's elegant, but it is, it's a showstopper dress. So we kind of go with the punches with that, but she's looking forward to having a great time with her friends and another milestone for us. And then my son Gian is headed to Tennessee for a tennis match. So we've got a really big weekend coming up.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, traveling grace to you, to him and you for the thing. And I already know you're going to be fly with the hair and the makeup and she's going to be fly.
No, that's Giovanni. So. That's Giovanni, the daughter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, I thought that was okay. Okay. Now I got it. Okay. Well, because you always fly.
I'll quickly tell you, Brian, 2 years ago when Gian had his first homecoming and he took a date, I dressed up and it looked like I was his date. So it was a really, really big deal back then. Now I'm okay. I can deal with it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, guys, listen, as I said, we have another fantastic show today. So why don't we jump right on in? As I said earlier, again, we have a fantastic show. And I just want to start it off with this. The website overseas.com reports that if you are considering moving to another country, you are definitely not alone. Now, according to the U.S. State Department, around 9 million U.S. citizens are living abroad. And web searches for how to move abroad have also surged in 2022, with one international relocation website citing a 193% increase in searches from US-based users since June of that year. So it's even higher now. So if you ever wanted to move to another country, but don't know how, we've got you covered. From, finding a place to live to buying your plane ticket. We have great tips on how to move you abroad. Now, question to both of you about this. And I know that you may or may not have even considered it, but if you did, what country would you consider moving to? And I'll go to you, Chanel, first. What country would that be?
Okay, Brian, I'm just going to tell you flat out, I am not a world traveler. um, I will
But
just
even
tell
if you
you,
did,
but I will tell you my destination.
okay,
Um,
that's good.
my destination party would be just to go back to Kauai, honestly. And I know that's not necessarily abroad, but it is the most beautiful place I've ever been besides
Oh,
Scotland. Now, I will say
oh,
my trip to Scotland was breathtaking,
mm,
literally breathtaking. The
wow,
Highlands, the
wow.
culture, the people, oh my gosh. But I'm a beach person.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
Kauai honestly would be it for me. I've been
Oh,
there
Kauai
twice
is
now. Yeah.
wow.
Hmm.
That's amazing. Well, should you could be a pseudo expat or you know
Yeah,
person there.
pseudo.
That's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
What about
All
you,
right.
D? Where would you go?
That's really hard to answer. If years ago, I probably would have said London or Paris and just been like really quick with it. However,
Hmm.
Brian, interesting because as I've gotten older, I'm really conscious of human rights in the world. How would I live financially in different
Yeah,
countries, and
yeah.
what we here compared to what people make in Paris, London, etc. It's very
Right,
different.
right.
And my own ambitions and drives. So that would be a hard question to answer, but I would say most likely London or Berlin would be my two.
Oh, Berlin, nice. Okay, yeah, bro.
Interesting.
People,
I, I've
people,
I've
yeah,
been there as
people
well.
don't. Yeah, people don't. People sleep on Berlin. Berlin
Mhm.
Hmm.
is really really nice. It's a
The
really
art and the
beautiful
fashion.
city.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
absolutely. But I love the way that both of you kind of were thinking about that because this process, the very, very first step in all of this is you got to research the country, right? You got to
Hmm.
know where you want to be and that kind of thing. And then the second part of that that's kind of like coincides with that is managing your personal finances. So let's take
Right.
on these two kind of like step by step, right?
Well,
So,
Brian, before we
yeah.
do that, okay, you can't leave us in suspense. Where would you
Oh,
Yeah. What's
want to
yours?
I'll
go?
tell you that. I'll tell you that at the end. I'll tell you guys mine at the
Okay.
end. But
Okay.
you probably already have guessed it. I know Sasha will be like,
I already
it,
know, but okay.
right, right. Um, so we were talking about one important step to take is doing research on the country or countries you are considering to move to, and that some of the important aspects to consider are things like weather, right? The climate and all that, customs and culture,
Hmm.
laws, and then cost of living. Like, for example, and this is on the legal side, and this blew me away. Did you guys know that eating or drinking on trains is illegal in Singapore? Even
No.
taking a sip of water can cost you up to $500 in fines. So,
Wow.
Ooh.
everybody, before you take the leap in terms of even considering this, do your homework, right? Now, the other part of this, in terms of after you've done your homework around like all those different things, you got to create a budget based upon the cost of living estimates. That will help ease you into a new life more peacefully. You got to
Right.
consider things like your direct cost of moving, with the cost of living in your new country for at least the first few months. So, having those monies kind of set aside for things like rent, food, transportation are very, very important. I know, D'Angelo, you know, you've spent time specifically in Europe and overseas, like where you are actually like working.
Hmm.
Can you talk to us a little bit about like some of the things that you learned, like that just like I wish I would have known this before I got here and was working, right? Because I mean, again, like me, I spent like 3 years on and off working in Europe, And there were things that I wish I would have known before I got there. So what were some of the things for you?
I would say like, let's say Paris and other places are more like a market culture, meaning that you buy your food fresh, your cheeses, your
Yeah.
meats, your wines, whatever, pretty fresh. It's
Yeah.
much cheaper than here in the States. I will say that out
Hmm.
loud, especially
Yeah.
wines, which is interesting. Literally like €5 or €2 at that sometimes.
Exactly.
Crazy for a bottle, you know? Uh, and then their sense of urgency is not the same as ours. Like when you run your errands, Brian and Dr. Chanel, you're like, okay, I got to get this done in 8 hours. Well,
Right.
they may have
Mhm.
a siesta. And when they have that
Right.
siesta, guess what? Nothing's going to happen within that 2 to 4 hours. And a friend of mine who married someone, an Italian guy in Rome, that was her biggest frustration. She's like, I can't get anything done here. She's like, we're like, there's no sense of urgency. So culturally, there are strong differences. So you have to make sure that you're comfortable with the
Right.
cultural difference. Yeah.
Yeah. I know for me, I spent a lot of time in Germany working. I was managing two teams, one here in the United States, one there in Germany, in southern Germany, in Stuttgart. Hey guys in Stuttgart. So I have friends that are there. Um, and the one thing that I wish I would have learned about before I got there, and this goes to customs and culture, I did not know about the sheer number of German holidays there are. And there's a
Ah.
lot of them. And
Mhm.
so, I'd plan a meeting or something like this, and I'd come in, I'm thinking I'm planning a meeting for my team, some of which were German nationals. And I would go
Mhm.
into the office and nobody would be there.
Ah. And no one told you?
and and nobody told me until oh well, today's a holiday, right? And it was like the first couple of times where on my schedule I was thinking, oh yeah, I'll meet with the guys at 1 o'clock today, I'll put it on my calendar once I get into work, and nobody would be there, right? The other thing too is you just kind of mentioned it, D. um they work, and this might have changed a little bit since then because this was many years ago, but they really work hard Monday through Thursday, and they work long. I mean, sun up, sundown, and that kind of thing. But come Friday at around 2 or 3 o'clock, everybody's leaving, right? Because they're like, no, this is part of our weekend. And so everybody's going to the beer garden and that kind of thing. And so I had to adjust those
Mm.
specific work schedules around what they were doing. And here was the amazing thing. The productivity of the German group was way higher than the US group.
Interesting. Mm.
And it was because they had created this work life kind of balance for themselves where, you know, I mean, it was fire. It was like fire Monday through Thursday. From they come in the door and it's like we're hitting it. And so it was
Right.
just it was an amazing experience. I just wish I would have known that before I got there. So
Mhm. Mhm.
um listen, guys, we're going to take a break because we got more to talk about. I'm already loving this conversation already because I've thought about this seriously, and again, I'll tell you my conclusions when we get to the end of the show. Just remind me. But we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more of Soulivity Today. Soulivity Today is brought to you by Happy Travelers Tours and Old Vine Wine Tours. can find all of the Satana products at our Go shop at go.soulivity.com.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
Hey, we are back with more of Soulivity Today, where we are talking about, the aspects of how would you go about moving to another country. Back with us are Dr. Chanel DeGuzman and D'Angelo Thompson. Guys, I'm loving this conversation. This is like one of my favorite fantasies around things that I'm going to be doing in the future. And I want to try to get through, I really want to support people in these steps. So why don't we get to the second part of this, which is step 2 is something that, I love, and I know D'Angelo, you love this too, is starting to learn the language, if it's a different language, of course, in the country that you're going to be, and to gather important information. Now, what does all this mean? Well, first, even with the privilege that English being spoken in many places worldwide is a second language. I mean, even in Germany, I know in Paris, English is widely spoken. Learning a little bit of the local language will help you integrate into your new country. Whether you enroll in a classroom course or study online, I mean, there's some free and affordable options to that. Now, additionally, and we'll talk about each one of these a little bit. Additionally, aside from your passport, you'll need several important documents for your visa appointment. However, there are other documents you may want to take overseas. Like once you're abroad, any number of scenarios could arise where you could require additional documents. And so having that stuff with you will kind of push off any headaches or hassles that you may have. These could include things like your birth certificate, right? Some countries like Italy require a U.S. driver's license to prove that you can drive a car, right? Rental car agencies also want to have that driver's license. Your degree certificates, right? So, degrees from your schools and that kind of thing, as well as educational transcripts. So those are those types of things. Now, Dr. Chanel, have you ever tried to learn like another language, or did you take another language like when you were in high school or college?
Yes, Brian. So I did take Spanish. It was, we had to take
Espanol.
a required language in college. Now, I paid for, at the University of Michigan, 4
Uh-uh.
semesters of Spanish.
Uh-huh.
And the most I could do is to teach my kids very elementary levels when they were babies, so they could,
Oh,
just start a language. But I agree. And I think for me, I would, if I were to move, I would definitely want to immerse myself in the language, but also to, spend time, like you said, learning the local dialect, the variations, because there are variations in each culture.
right.
But also just having that mindset that, that's sort of on me, because the last time I went abroad, fortunately, I had somebody with me who was Spanish speaking,
Mm,
and they were able to interpret a lot. And I just felt like, gosh, you're kind of privileged here. um not taking it up on myself to really, have the basic fundamental elements of the language, the customary things that you would say to get by.
right.
But just not having that if I may say, American mindset that's, has that English as, you you being able to immerse yourself in the other language and give yourself plenty of time, to be somewhat proficient, because there's all sorts of conversational groups here that you can prepare for.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. You should get back into it. To get back
I
into
should.
learning
It
it.
would be so culturally enriching.
And then you could go to those countries where, Spanish is being spoken. And that'd be a whole nother
Mhm.
adventure. D,
Mhm.
I know you D, are you still taking your language courses?
No, but I did them in 2020 and 2021. I did
Okay.
German, Gut. I did French, which I
Cool.
already had in high school and some in college. So parler français, and as well as so I took all the classes. Really, with French, I can get around in Paris or France, get around without checking a book or a manual.
Yeah.
Will
Yeah.
I not? I will not know every word. I'll tell people that right away, but I can
Right. Right.
understand what they're saying, and I can also articulate what I need. When it comes to Spanish, Spanish is hard for me, Dr. Chanel. I don't know what it is about my tongue. My tongue cannot
Mm.
Right. Right.
hold on and Italian phonetically, because I love the way it sounds. I'll make more
Oh.
of an attempt to speak it, you know, like buongiorno, come stai? It just has a rhythm
Yeah.
to it that I actually
Ah,
like.
amico
Um,
mio.
yeah, exactly. So, and then their verbs are very different than the other Latin languages. So I think that has a lot to do with it. They have, what I was told, less. So it's more like really stating what you want. So
you,
yeah,
you,
language is amazing. It is.
yeah.
Brian, what about you?
Yeah. And it's and it kind of also, what I found is, you know here again, here in America, I think we take English as just being, we kind of separate, divide everything, right? Where English is just our language, but it's not part of our culture. In other countries, language and culture are one, right?
Very
Mhm.
true.
Where
Absolutely.
it's why redoing this research on, if you're deciding you want to go to another country, even for travel, I would say this is also true. A lot of these things are true for travel as well. But, like, for instance, if you're in France, and D'Angelo, you were talking about this in terms of the sense of urgency is different for different things. When you're in a cafe here in America, I mean, when you're at a cafe here in America, it's customary for your waiter to bring you your check. In France, that's an insult, right? They wait until you have to ask for your check, right? So
Mhm.
l'addition, s'il vous plaît, right? So you must ask for the receipt or the bill when you're done. That tells the waiter that you're done, right?
Which is better.
Also,
Mhm.
right? And that is your table until you ask for it. So you could be there 3 hours sipping on a coffee, and that is customary, right? Now, in some of the touristy areas, like in Paris, for instance, they'll bring you your check because they know that they're serving Americans and that they're not, like, insulting. But they won't do that if a French person is sitting down, right? They won't do
Mm.
that. But if they know you're American, they'll say, "Oh, you're done," because they're trying to flip the tables and make as much money off of you as possible. So, learning the language is very important, or learning some of the basics. Hello, goodbye, good day, how are
Please
you?
and thank you.
Please and
Mhm.
thank you.
Isn't thank
Right,
you very
right.
important.
How much is this? Is another one that's really, really good.
Mhm. Mhm.
And know your basic numbers from 1 to 10. Those are very important too. So
I
anyway,
say 1 to 100, actually.
well,
1 to
what?
100.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it gets easier once you get past 10. Then it kind of duplicates a lot of
Yeah.
times, right?
Mhm.
So, all right. Fantastic. I'm loving this conversation. Everybody sit right there. We got more for you. So get your thinking hats on, like what country you want to be in as we're talking about this stuff. And we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
6 years ago, when I started Soulivity, my vision was to support everyone in improving their life through the discovery of their passion and purpose, so they could become the best version of themselves. to battle fear and ignorance and create a better world today. Get inspired to live your passion and purpose. Visit Soulivity.com now.
Do you see me kneeling on this dual roller called Parasetter? It's actually comfortable because of this channel and the softness of the special foam. It feels like my kneecaps are being massaged. When I lie down, my spine is housed in this channel, while the convex rollers massage my muscles. They let go and lengthen. There's a traction effect from my head on the headrest and my mid-back from the rib wrap, which hugs me. When I start the breathing sequence, I feel calm because my cortisol levels are dropping. Lower cortisol means bye-bye constant hunger. Parasetter is 40 inches long and much more comfortable than old-style rollers, but it weighs only 10 ounces. Parasetter, just like Pilates was, is no longer an insider secret. Do yourself a favor. Reset your parasympathetic nervous system. Defeat stress. Lying, sitting, kneeling, or standing. This unique patented roller helps everyone.
Hey, we're back with more of Soulivity Today. Today, we are giving you some important information about what to consider when you are moving to another country. And back with us again is Dr. Chanel DeGuzman, a senior Soulivity contributor, and D'Angelo Thompson, who's a Soulivity editor at large. Woo-hoo-hoo. We kind of talked about, we were getting into this around like the important documents piece of this. Step 3 is like really important because this kind of is, you've basically decided what country you want to go to. But part of this is how do you want to move? And we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between being an expat and a digital nomad. But this relates to applying for a visa and then deciding what you want to do with your things, right? Again, these are things that people don't think about, right? Because, what country you're going to and how you're going to do it makes it applicable to the kind of visa you want to apply for, right? So for instance, visas for English teachers and other workers are usually sponsored by an employer, right? That's what happened with me when I was working in Germany. If you're a digital nomad, and we'll talk about what that is in a second, you're able to apply for those digital nomad visas in different eligible countries. So, if you're moving overseas to take undergraduate, graduate studies, you generally need to apply for a student visa before you go. So, these are those things you got to really think about and plan for in advance, just in case you have to do things before you even leave. Now, unless it's totally necessary to bring your whole apartment or home, moving abroad with only a few suitcases is probably the most ideal, right? And hassle-free way to go. Now, if you need to take more than that, there's some options, right? I know friends of mine that have, shipped a lot of their things from their home in the United States to Germany when they were there, because they were going to be there for at least 5 to 7 years. So they wanted to have their own bed. They wanted to have some of their own furniture and that kind of thing. Around that, you got to make sure, again, planning, because typically it can take anywhere between 6 to 10 weeks for your stuff to get to the dock, right? And then you've got to make another plan, like a moving company or something, to take your stuff from the dock to your home. So again, these are all things that you need to research. We put the link into the article that has a lot of great links and tips for you. Dee, did you ever have to apply for a visa? Did you ever have to have a visa when you worked overseas?
No, because I went there for weddings and I went there for one magazine shoot, but I did not need a
Right.
visa for that. But I will
Right.
say, moving, I have friends that have moved to Portugal. Some have retired there. Some are planning on retiring there. And what they did as far as moving furniture and things that they really knew they wanted, they did ship
Mhm.
it, but they did group shipping, meaning that multiple families sent it together,
Mm,
Yeah.
and they would pick it at the dock. So that's a
mhm.
cheaper way of doing it.
Yes.
And I would say be careful about sending cars across the
Yeah, I
ocean.
was just thinking that. I was just
Yeah,
saying
it
that.
has to be
Yeah.
compliant,
It's
the EU versus the United States. The EU doesn't allow certain things that we allow in our cars here. So
right.
just FYI, yes.
In fact, my friends that were in Germany living there, it was actually cheaper for them to just buy a used car in Germany to get around
Hmm.
than it was for them to ship their own car from the United States. Because
Wow.
there is the cost to ship it. There is the cost to refit your car for emission standards or whatever the laws are there, right? Um, and then you've got to get all the licensing and registration and all that. It's a much simpler process when you're in the country and you're getting a car if you need to get around. And they needed a car because of where they were. They were doing excursions outside of the city and that kind of thing. And renting a car or doing car share for them was just getting way, way, way too expensive,
Yes.
and was a
Mhm.
little less convenient for them. So, um, so it's important that you do that. Again, this is all about knowing this information and planning for the information, planning for your trip or for your move long before you even get into, okay, I'm in dreamland and I'm going to buy this plane ticket and I'm just gonna go off and do my thing. um, now, you've done that when you went to Scotland, Dr. Chanel. Was that for a working trip or was that vacation?
That was actually a working trip, if you can
Okay, I
believe
thought
it.
so.
So,
I thought
Brian and
so. No, I would
Tangela,
love it.
I was working for the Alumni Association of the University of Michigan, which has one of the largest alumni bases in the country.
Hmm.
And as a member of the staff, you were charged with hosting, one of the trips. So you could choose which trip you wanted to go on. And so I was like, well, Gary and I can go to Scotland. So all completely 100% paid for. um,
Nice.
Gary and I went, I think when we were first married, and all we had to do, Brian, it was to host. So, converse over dinner and sit in the
Wow.
cafe and go on all the excursions, excuse me, and just to, be hospitable. That was our charge. So no, I mean, other than the passport and so forth, I don't recall needing any special documentation. But I just wanted to go back to a couple points. One, not only do you need to take your time, but I like the fact where you were saying maybe you should continue to visit for a while before
Yeah.
obviously you make that jump. I mean, you definitely are expanding my thinking today. So having that kind of luxury to visit various countries and
Yeah.
Hmm.
and learn these different cultures and see where
Yeah.
where the opportunity is and where you would want to fit. And then also just understanding, yeah, the orientation, especially coming from America, is just so different, and you really have to be mindful of that. I recall having 3 o'clock tea in a lot of the countries that I visited,
Oh
where
Right.
yeah.
we're in a business meeting and we just everything stops at
Stops.
3 o'clock for tea and scones and all sorts of other scrumptious kinds of pastries.
Yep.
And it was, you had to settle in, so your whole orientation has to come down a couple notches in
Oh
certain
yeah.
countries and cultures.
Oh yeah. I highly recommend that as part of your research in the beginning, right? And I know D, you agree with me too on this. Go take trips and visit where you
Oh, yeah.
possibly want to be
Multiple
Mhm.
times.
multiple
Multiple
times.
times.
And
Hmm.
and and I'd say each time that you go, move in the direction, if you're not doing it from the start, move into the direction of staying in the country like you would be living there. So
Yes.
instead of staying in a hotel or or a hostel, rent an apartment. It's what, like in Europe, it's what most Europeans do anyway, right? Rent an apartment in a city and experience how it would be living with the native people that are there. You'll find that if you're learning your language, it'll have you stretch a little bit more. Buying groceries and that kind of thing, like Dee, you were talking about, I think it's a marvelous thing to do, where you can really get an essence and a vibe of the city, like the energy of the city that you're in the country that's there, and do that several times. And then you can make a decision about, okay, do I want to, move here or not? And then then you can make the decision too around how you would move. If you're retired, like my friends who live in Portugal are, it's not so much a worry around work than it is things like your retirement savings and that kind of thing. And FYI, in Portugal, it transfers directly. There is no fee or cost. Whatever your retirement funds are in the United States transfers into Portugal's system flawlessly, right? So that's one thing.
Pretty amazing. Wow.
It's really. I mean, it's why there are more and more Americans that are considering Portugal, especially southern Portugal, as a place to be, because the weather is very, very mild. There's great restaurants, great shopping. Spain is right there. You can get anywhere in Europe very quickly. And there's water. There's beautiful water that's there. One more thing I wanted to talk about was, and again, this is all around, making the decision of whether or not you want to move and that kind of thing. And we mentioned earlier that there's a difference between, being an expat or digital nomad when living abroad. And I just want to make sure that we kind of define these really quickly. An expatriate, or expat for short, is a person who lives abroad for work. And although this sounds similar to a digital nomad, the main difference is that expats tend to make their move overseas more permanent. As the name implies, digital nomads, however, move from place to place with no fixed residence. And this is the beauty of the digital nomad lifestyle. You're free to travel, while you work. And more countries are making it easy to move abroad by offering digital nomad visas for 1 or more years, some with the possibility of making it more permanent as a digital expat, should you decide to stay. So just wanted to make sure that people know about that as well, because if you're thinking, I want to just have this adventure and I am working in a job that it doesn't matter where I live, look at a digital nomad visa. And if a country that you're at will allow you to have that, and then you can live overseas and do that. Really quickly, my one of my dear friends' daughters did that by moving to Mexico City, and she was working in Mexico City. I mean, she was living in Mexico City, but she was working for a company that she could work digitally. She loved it so much that and she saved a whole bunch of money, right? Because it was way cheaper to live there. So she banked a whole bunch of money. And she loved it so much that when that job ended, she opened up the first African-American soul food restaurant in Mexico City.
Wow.
Oh
That's
my
women-owned.
goodness.
That's women-owned. And it is highly popular. And so congratulations to her for doing that. So dreams do come true, y'all. Dreams do come true
Yeah, that's
when it
true.
comes like this. I love this. I love this show today. Talking about this. I have been dreaming about living abroad for a long time. And just so that Chanel, just so that I'm keeping my promise. Everybody knows who knows me that Paris is my number one
Yeah.
favorite. It's like my other home, like DC's home, and then Paris is another home. I would, it's funny, D'Angelo and Chanel. I was thinking about this a lot. Yes, I would love to live in Paris, but I'm at the age now at which I would love to live in at least 3 different places. And so that when you know what I mean? When not that when I've had enough of one, it's more like variety is the spice of life. And so,
I need that
you know,
too. Yeah.
you know what I mean? So living in Paris for a certain amount of time, maybe living on the beach somewhere for another part of the time, living here in the United States for a part of the time, and then deciding what to do next. And then those are just homes, and then vacationing in other places. I get electric in airports. I love experiencing new people, new things. And so it's like a necessity for me. So, I kind of live for travel, in addition to.
I told Brian that I was going to follow him and Sasha. Gary and I will follow them the next Paris trip.
You should.
Hanging buddies.
Yes. Magical.
I
don't think I'd want to do Paris
that.
without Brian and Sasha.
Oh man, I would love that. That would, oh man. Yeah, we're about due for another. We did that for my 50th birthday, where I invited friend of mine to come to Paris and kind of see Paris through my eyes. And I made it really easy, where there were certain things that I had kind of planned. And I'm like, hey, either join us or not join us. It's up to you. But make sure that you're going out and doing the things that you want to do while you're here. And it worked out great. It worked out phenomenally great. And so, yeah, we got to do that. Gary, of course, D'Angelo, you're welcome to come too.
Well, thank you.
You guys, I just got to tell you one missed opportunity. So while also working at the Alumni Association, I had an opportunity to go to Egypt for 14 days. And you guys, guess what? I had to turn it down, Brian, because I was working on my dissertation, and I just could not take that kind of time away. Although it would have been a one in a lifetime, event for me and Gary. But yeah, I have the PhD, so let me just say, and maybe I'll get back to Egypt at another point in my life.
If you could go back and do it, would you have done the same thing? If you could go back and do it, would you have done?
Yeah, Brian, I don't know. Because you know what? Once you start taking time, even though it's 2 weeks, we're talking really a month of start and stop. So once you get off that track, it's a little difficult. I value the PhD. It's opened up so many doors. But that's just on me now to find a way to get to Egypt.
I love it. I love it. I can see you if I can see if we were like, Quantum Leap or something and going back in time, I can see you like packing up that laptop and saying, all right, baby.
Right.
From from 7 to 12.
Yes.
I'm locking myself in this room and I'm working. But at 12 o'clock, we out.
Right. Well, we have changed the way we work now. I just didn't have that notion back then.
That's right. Oh man, that's right. See, I mean, the world is your oyster.
That was 20 years ago.
Yeah, I was thinking about a lot of things, like if I could go back in time and keep everything that I have today, my wife, my son, all my friends, including all of you, I would have definitely gone overseas for school. Without question.
Wow.
When I graduated from Cass, I would have been on the first plane smoking and been gone. Because I didn't know how accessible, and this was true back then. I didn't know how accessible it was for American students to study in like Europe. I didn't know how accessible it was. And that it's even more accessible now, where they're really trying to attract American students to come there, because if they're hoping that they'll stay, right? Like in Germany, you can basically study for damn near little to nothing and go all the way to your doctorate degree. And it's public education.
Mhm.
And again, they're hoping that you stay and work, that you fall in love and you stay and you work, because
Right.
the population over there is kind of aging. And so they want
Mm,
younger folks to be there. So, anywho,
mhm.
I love this. I love it. I love it. I love it. Listen, we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be back with some Soulivity shameless plugs.
Hi there, Sheila Applegate here with some exciting news. I've joined the incredible Soulivity team as the host of the new Consciously Awesome live show, where I will be sharing insights to help you discover your full brilliance and claim the vibrant life you deserve. So, tune in every Wednesday right here on Soulivity TV to join the fun, and remember to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss a single episode. Have an awesome week, and I will see you on Wednesday.
And let's get to some Soulivity shameless plugs. Dr. Chanel, as always, you have this wonderful ongoing free resource that people can partake with you. Can you talk a little bit more about your sessions?
Absolutely. So you are, and both of you are expanding my thinking and I want to tie it to the book, Come Back to Yourself, Love Life, Live Free. What a better time
Mm.
to start exploring new opportunities, such as moving abroad, by sitting down and finding out what's your vision, what's your big why, and what might be holding you back. So if you are interested in a complimentary coaching session, reach out to me. Also, pick up that book, Come Back to Yourself, Love Life, Live Free, and live the life you really want.
I love it. Yay. And you can find Dr. Chanel's book wherever books are sold, including Amazon.com and on our Go shop at go.soulivity.com. D'Angelo, you've got this great workshop that's coming up on October 30th. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, it's called The Art of Pivoting, and it's really focusing on all the pivots we have in our lives, personal and professional, and how to navigate them. So I hope to see you guys October 30th. And as you can see here, there's a code at the bottom, student 2023, $50 off. Thank you.
Woohoo! I love it. Yes. Just really quickly, because coming up another special event, we've got another Joy Keepers Cafe coming up on October 25th. It is absolutely free. You can visit joykeepers.org/cafe. There's going to be a joy meditation with our own Sheila Applegate. So you're going to go to that website, you're going to reserve your seat, and it's totally online. And so it's going to be a really, really good time. Hope to see you there. Also, check out our wonderful sponsors. First, 80 Bites, which is a portion control and stomach training program. It helps you regulate your weight. It's absolutely free. You want to go to soulivity.com/80 bites for that. And go check out and book your own wine tour in Sonoma, where it's so beautiful there. If you haven't been, this is a really great chance to do it. If you use the promo code Soulivity, you'll get 10% off either a culture or a wine tour. Van and his folks out there are so fantastic. So you're going to go to oldvinewinetours.com/wine in the weeds. I love that title so much. Go check it out. And don't forget to use the promo code Soulivity to get 10% off. Additionally, follow us on social media, where you can find out more information about what's coming up on soulivity.com and even here on Soulivity Today. There's tips, there's how-tos, there's a whole bunch of fun stuff that's there that, I can't even mention because there's so much there for you to enjoy. So thanks to both of you for being here. This is another fantastic show. I love it.
Yeah, I've got to
Great.
start planning out my trip now, Brian.
Yeah. We need to do, it's funny because I just had a friend of mine that we connect, but we reconnected virtually again. We've been talking, through social media and that kind of thing. But we had a great conversation, and he had a suggestion that a friend of his has this beautiful villa in Tuscany, and he was like, "Hey, you should have your first like Soulivity like
Retreat.
retreat, there with all the collaborators." It's a huge villa, something like 14 bedrooms, something like that. It's got 4 kitchens.
Nice.
It's amazing, and literally the view is of Siena and the hillsides of Tuscany. Is just absolutely gorgeous. So maybe that'll be something that we'll plan. We'll just have to. We might not come back, but
We can always do the show from there.
Exactly, right? Thanks to both of you for being here. Really appreciate you so much.
Absolutely.
Oh man, listen, and thanks to all of you for making it here for another Soulivity Today. We hope that you enjoyed and were empowered by all the information that we shared. This is what we're about here. We're about empowering you every single day. There's so many great experiences that you can have in your life, and we want to make sure that we're giving you the information that you need so that you can take these leaps, not like jumping off a cliff, but maybe kind of like jumping over a little puddle or something like that, so that you can, really have this amazing best life today. Because cultural experiences are very important. Travel is very important. It helps you expand and grow. So with that, listen, this is how we do it Monday through Fridays, right here on our live platform at 8 a.m. Eastern time for Soulivity Today. But if you're out on the West Coast, you can also listen or watch us on KMET 1490 AM radio in Southern California. All the amazing folks out there, Bill and Jesse and all you guys, appreciate you guys so much, bringing all this inspiration out there coast to coast. So love you guys too. Listen, on behalf of all of us here at Soulivity, thank you again for joining us. And until next time, keep empowering yourselves so you can learn about your passion, learn how to use it to serve as your purpose, and create a high quality life, your best life today. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved. Six years ago, when I started Soulivity, my vision was to support everyone in improving their life through the discovery of their passion and purpose, so they could become the best version of themselves